Sounds good.
Always have people trickling in, but welcome. My name is Michelle Rapp, and I'm the Associate Director of Alumni Career Strategy at Northeastern in the Alumni Relations Office. And I'm super excited to have Nalani here presenting with us. We've had great conversations, and I think she's bringing a lot of creativity to this topic. And I also think it's a unique topic. You know, it's easy to focus on like the job search and the how-to. And I think reflecting on our values and our priorities and non-negotiables opens up different ideas and possibilities too. And I think that will happen for you today. Just a bit about Nalani's background. She is a leadership coach who has spent the last decade focused on helping others build energy-giving relationships with work. She partners with clients to make choices from a place of self-awareness and authenticity that fuels life holistically. She also supports clients in building awareness and skills that outlast the present challenge and keep on bearing fruit over the long term. Nalani was featured on the TEDx stage, detailing the process and importance of designing work-life non-negotiables. Her experience spans the tech and startup ecosystem, including working with globally distributed teams. In addition to her coaching work, she has spent time in leadership positions across strategy consulting, experience design, and people operations. In her work with organizations, Nalani coaches leaders to build and evolve organizational culture in systematic ways that align with the integrity of the organization. And she is a Husky who studied business administration at Northeastern. So I'm looking forward to learning from her today. It's all yours, Nalani.
Thank you, Michelle. Lovely. All right. So today we are going to have a highly self-reflective and interactive workshop on defining your non-negotiables. And so today, by the end of our hour together, you will walk away with, first and foremost, permission to think about your personal needs and values in your work life. I really, really believe we don't talk about this enough, of pausing and saying, this is a two-way street. When we interview, when we think about new jobs, when we think about our current job, yes, our organizations, if we're working for an organization, they need and want things from us, but we're allowed to need and want things from that work as well. So talking about permission, you're going to walk away with a framework for identifying what is most important to you, including your own inventory of your non-negotiables that we'll go through a series of exercises together. And then at the end, you'll walk away with one action that you can take tomorrow to honor these non-negotiables and honor your needs. So thank you to Michelle for the lovely introduction. Just another quick plug. I'm Nalani. My pronouns are she, her. I have two businesses, actually. I'm both an executive coach and I'm a work-life partner, helping people design energy-giving relationships with their work. Been on the TEDx stage talking about this very topic. And I'm also a serial career changer. That's a mouthful. I've gone through a number of career changes myself and really grappled with this topic of what are my non-negotiables in facing each of those changes. So not to say that that's over. I've changed careers recently, gone from being an in-house coach to having my own coaching business. So this is a topic that constantly lives for me as well. So we're going to do a quick poll. Michelle's going to help me out here. And I would love to get a sense from all of you. This is anonymous, don't worry. It'll show up on your screen in a moment. Of how you would describe your relationship with your work right now. And so work, what I mean by this is however you spend your time. You could be in a corporate role, you could work for yourself, you could be a stay-at-home parent, be a student. As we talk about this overall today, work is however you spend your time, really. You should see them on your screen pop up. Again, this is anonymous, but I'd love for you to choose whichever one feels most present in your life right now. It could be different next week. It could be different tomorrow, just right now. And I'll share this back so you all can see who else is in the room of how they're relating to their work lives right now. So give it another moment. Got almost all of you participating. If there's anyone else that wants to add in before we close it, now's the time. All right, 3, 2, 1. Excellent. Okay, and so you'll see on your screen here, we have almost 50% of you who are feeling moderately fulfilled at work. Wonderful. Some of you, your work is just a job right now. A handful of you are miserable. Totally get it. I've been there too. And one of you totally loves your job. So I love that we have a varied group of folks here. And I think that really speaks to how much this work around defining our non-negotiables applies to all of us, no matter our current relationship with our work. So the first thing I want to start with as we jump in is giving you permission. Not that many people in our world will create the space for us to pause and say, what do you want in your work life? Often our work is about a paycheck and meeting our core needs around security and supporting our families, supporting ourselves. And so what I'm going to do today is walk you through a framework that really gives you permission to think about what you want and be selfish for just a moment. So first, I want to define what I mean when I say non-negotiables. These are our most important needs, values, or what we're really longing to experience or get. I'll say get from, in this case, the context we're talking about is our work life. And so this isn't absolutes. This isn't like there's negotiables and there's non-negotiables. I really see this as a spectrum of there's some things that are going to be higher on that list of like maybe really close to non-negotiables. And then there's some things that are going to be really important to us. And then there's some things that are going to be nice to have. And those will be part of our exercise in just a minute. The other thing to note is that our non-negotiables and our needs change throughout time. So different seasons of life, different jobs are going to pull out different needs from us, and they're highly shaped by our past experiences. So this framework we're going to walk through, we're going to start with that backward look on looking at each of your past experiences for yourself and seeing how that's informed right now, what feels like it's most important to you. And then the second step, we'll look at your current situation, your current role, current relationship with work, what's working about that and fulfilling your needs, and what's not working about that you wish was different. And then we'll look forward and say, if you were evaluating a new role, let's say you were interviewing for a new role tomorrow, what are the things that would be really important and top of your list that if you go into an interview, what do you want to make sure you understand? So we'll go through the spectrum of this time horizons to build up this inventory that you'll each walk away with. All right, so we are going to step into our first step of reflection, which is backward, as I mentioned. And we're going to spend about 5 minutes in individual reflection. So I will put on some music, I'll put a timer on. And what I'd love for you to write down, grab some pen and paper if you don't have it already. Really encourage actual writing over typing, but if that's all that's available to you, of course, you do you. And so I'd love for you to work through these questions, just reflecting on your own experience of the last time you left a job, and how did that inform what you looked for next? And is that thing still really important to you? Maybe it's not important to you anymore. Maybe something shifted. And then what other reasons you might have left a prior job that were really either at the time or now considered core to your values and your non-negotiables. Any questions before we dive in? Feel free to throw that in the chat or take yourself off mute if any questions. Give a few seconds here, just settle in. Okay. So you'll see if you look at my video that there is a timer that shows up there. It'll be rough. I'll give a shout when we get a little bit closer to that 5-minute mark, see if we need less time or more time. But I'm gonna stop talking and let you all step into your reflection. about at the halfway mark. And if you're done and feeling like you don't need more time, really cool. Maybe let me know in the chat. I don't have too many people's video. About 2 minutes left. All right, we're gonna keep this a little short because I think that there's people wrapping up. I see eyes coming up and people telling me that in the chat. So wonderful. All right. So I would love for each of you to put in the chat something that you identified to help us kind of crowdsource some inspiration so that we all can start thinking about the different options of the types of things that we value in our work life. So maybe pick out one thing from your brainstorm and throw it in the chat so that the rest of the almost 30 folks here can gain some inspiration from you. Use a generic term, it could be really specific. It's a belonging, collaboration, good team, yes. Autonomy. Autonomy is really huge for me. Yeah. Creative mentorship, diversity, different cultures, integrity, great word. Yeah. Non-abusive boss. So maybe a supportive boss or totally rewarding work. So low pay, no benefits, maybe not feeling yeah, supported in meeting your core needs around income and be health insurance. But hours that suit my family needs, so maybe flexibility. Awesome. Awesome. We've got some inspiration flowing here. And what I want to talk through next are some other examples. So here are some categories that you can use for inspiration. As we continue in this exercise, we'll go into a new reflection in just a moment. But consider that some of your non-negotiables may stem from areas around the actual tasks of a role. So maybe you hate working with data or doing math. So, and you want to be more creative. So there could be a non-negotiable around having an outlet for creativity at work. Just an example. There was some of this mentioned in the chat around compensation, recognition, appreciation. Those are core human needs that absolutely can be non-negotiables and part of our values. Growth opportunities, that was also mentioned in the chat. Maybe leadership around who is it that we're reporting to, or what's the energy of how leaders in the company show up, what's expected. That leads us to, it might be values around what the culture is like, the norms, the expectations, the things that are expected of us, but maybe are go unsaid. That's very much how I think about culture. Diversity, also mentioned in the chat. I love that we already have so much of this flowing from all of you. Just a place of self-generation. And so diversity could be, I want to be challenged by people who don't think like me. Diversity on the flip side could be, I identify as someone who is from, say, a minority background, and you want to be with people who share some of those experiences so that you have a sense of belonging. So when we think about work around diversity, inclusion, belonging, equity, there's different sides to approach that around what your needs are related to your work. Very related over on the right side to the team dynamics. What's that experience? What's the experience that you want? Do you want to be a part of a team? Do you want to mostly do solo work? On the industry and domain, you may be super passionate about needing to work in a specific industry, and that is non-negotiable for you. Maybe it's sustainability, maybe it is finance, you have anything. This could also be the opposite of a non-negotiable. Some people have a certain craft and they don't care how they apply it in terms of industry. They just want to be doing a certain type of work. And then lastly, the last option on this just inspiration list really of non-negotiable categories is physical environment. So do you want to be going into an office? What does that office feel like? Is it far from your house? Do you want to be working at home? Do you want a balance? Really thinking about this full scope of like, what permission do I have around my work life to have specific wants and desires? And starting to put them on paper is really what we're up to here. So yes, and feeling like I'm making a difference in the world in an important way. So I'm in the chat of that. So this next reflection, we're going to do quite similar. We'll do about 4 minutes, and we're going to focus on your current relationship with your current work, your role, however you spend your time. And I put the list of categories over on the right for some inspiration. So I'd love for you to think through what values or needs does your current role actually fulfill right now that really work for you, that you want to make sure you maintain no matter what you do in the future. And then on the flip side, what isn't being met right now? What values do you have that you really wish were fulfilled through your current situation? And then at the end of that, maybe the last minute, thinking about of what you've written so far in the last reflection and this reflection, what might start to stand out as the most or closer to the most important that you would put higher on that? We'll start the beginning part of prioritization. I'll put a 4-minute timer and some music, and off we go. Seeing some eyes come back to the screen. For those of you who aren't on video, maybe throw in the chat if and when you're done. Right. Wrap up your last thought if you're still reflecting. And next, let's talk about some tips as you start to narrow down and define some of these values and these non-negotiables for yourself. I'm going to talk about a few tips as we head into the next one. So the first one is to write or reframe what you might have already put on paper in a way that frames what you do want to experience rather than what you don't want to experience. So if you say, I don't want to be micromanaged, the opposite might be, I want to work with a leader who empowers me. Just an example. So having that be a positive thing then helps you ask questions about it, reflect on it from the place of moving towards something rather than away from something, which is a much more sustainable way to affect change. The second is I want to just mention permission around financial security being a really, really important value to almost all of us. And so we're talking about a lot of other things that aren't so core to, let's say, meeting our core basic needs, food, shelter, water, things like that. But what you make absolutely can be one of your non-negotiables. I'd encourage you to have there be more in your field of what you're talking about, what you bring to interviews than just salary. And that's kind of what we're exploring here today. But I want to name, because this is usually the first thing that comes up for all of us, but we are allowed to have other non-negotiables too. So the third tip is around ownership. And again, this is related to permission. Your non-negotiables are yours. They are not what your friends, what your family think you should want or what they want for you in your work life. And so you might take a pass over what you've written so far for how much of these are things that are really, really important to me versus what I think should be important to me or what someone else has told me they think should be important to me or to them. You're really taking ownership over what's true for you. And then the last tip is allowing yourself to change. So as we went through this past reflection and this current reflection, holding the awareness that these things tomorrow, next week, next year totally can change. Whether you're in a different role, you could be in the same role and your values can change, their life circumstances, or just aging and living in a world where there's a lot of complexity. The complexity, say, of the news cycle right now could even on its own shift what you're looking for from your work. Saying, I really want calmness and I really want to be able to focus at work and not, have distractions with internal politics because I see enough of that. Or maybe there's family dynamics that have risen in more recent times, and you're like, too much of my energy is taken up there, so I want something different from my work life. So as we step into our third reflection, that we're going to look forward, note down any of these that feel especially resonant for you that you want to take a pass on over what you've written so far. I'll just give you a moment on this slide before we move to the next. Our third reflection is future looking. You know the drill at this point. We'll have a few minutes of reflection. And the focus is if you were evaluating a new job tomorrow, what are the things that walking out of an interview you would want to understand from them to learn about the opportunity, about the company, about the people, to help you make your best guess and if you would quickly dread working there? And then at the end, once you've reflected on that question, I'd love for you to think about if there's anything that's really, really important to you in your work life that hasn't made it onto your reflection page thus far. So I'm going to do 3 minutes this time, and I'll bring the music back. Right. You might wrap up your last thought. You're in the middle of a reflection. And you can stay in that mindset based of reflection because the next thing I want to ask you is just to take a pass at what you have written thus far and ask that question again. Is there anything that's missing? Anything that is really important to me that isn't yet showing up on this list? Just take a moment here. You might think to past experiences, current experiences, what you want in the future. I could have said this more explicitly earlier, but if you're an entrepreneur, this is also really applicable to how you spend your time, how you structure your time, who you choose to work with, where you focus your business. This is all about, for each of us, what is the relationship with work that we most want? Right. So we're going to shift into the last of our 4 steps of this reflection, which is around prioritization. We'll do 2 to 3 minutes here. And what I would love for you to do is group what you've written thus far into 3 groups. The first is what is rising to the top as truly non-negotiables or close to it. Sometimes I hear people say, well, nothing's actually non-negotiable. That's okay. But what are the things that are your first priorities, your first in line? Maybe you have them right now. Maybe you don't experience that. But the cream of the crop, so that is the first category of close to or truly non-negotiables. And then what are the things that are really important, but not totally make it or break it? And then there might be a group of nice to haves. I'll give you a few minutes, do this grouping, and cue the music one last time. Just a few more moments here. We prioritize what you've crafted so far. All right. So now you should have something that resembles a prioritized list of things that are really, really important to you as it relates to your relationship with work. And so, what we're going to do is continue the sharing of inspiration because sometimes we just need to hear something from someone else to have it spark a new idea for us. And we're going to go into breakout groups, which Michelle is graciously going to help us with. And what I want you to do is share your non-negotiables with your group mates. This is an inspiration exercise so that others can hear and kind of evaluate their own when they hear something that someone else said. Or think, oh, I hadn't thought about that. Or you ask questions of each other. Feel free to do that. We'll be in groups of about 4. And then I'd love for each of you to pick one thing that you can do tomorrow to honor your non-negotiables and share it with your group mates to create some accountability of speaking that intention out loud. So this could be making a request of someone of something that's not working for you. This could be setting a boundary. This could be making a decision or taking a new action for yourself. Could look like anything. But now that you have this awareness of what is really important, I suspect that this action might have something to do with some of those things on the list that you're not feeling really fulfilled with right now, where you might want to make a change and say, I want to feel more of that thing. And so what could I do about it? We all like to think that other people are mind readers and will help us make those shifts. But if we don't make requests, we don't speak up, or we don't take our own action, often in the form of boundaries, very typically unlikely that those shifts start to take root. So yeah,
And
Michelle.
Nalani, just checking that will include the co-hosts or not in the.
Let's not include us.
Great. All right, time is up. Close now. All right, it's letting me. It gave me that head.
Yeah, it'll close in a minute. Perfect.
Okay, people are coming back.
Right. Welcome back. Welcome. We have people rolling in. We hope there was some dynamic conversation. You might have gotten some inspiration for adjusting or adding to your values and negotiables. We still have a few rooms who maybe are deep in conversation who don't want to come back. They still have 20 seconds. Give us a little music for. I've been like grooving over here by myself. And y'all are reflecting. All right. Welcome back. Right. So I hope you all got some inspiration for maybe making adjustments or changes to what you had reflected on thus far. And so before we get ready to wrap up, I want to talk about how you can use what you've created today. So I really like the word audit, of using them to audit your life and your current role and coming back to them as a source of how is this working for me right now? That might include taking action. It might include saying, actually, things are good. And then another way you can use it is more forward looking, of evaluating. It could be a new role or a career shift, or do I want to work for myself, or do I want to go back to school? And all of those incarnations, how might those fulfill the needs and the values that you've identified are really, really important to you? Another way to use them rather is to craft interview questions. Or, okay, what do I want to understand when I walk out of this interview with a potential new job? What do I want to ask them about, regardless of what they ask me? You have permission to interview them too. And as someone who's been on both sides of the interview table, I've done a lot of hiring. I personally really appreciate when people show up with that intention of wanting to learn from me, because this is the best, in my opinion, the best way to set everyone up for success is if you're doing your due diligence. Because if you get into a role a few weeks, a few months, and you're like, oh, this is not what I expected, not good for the company either. And no one wants that, including you. And then there's all sorts of ideas, but the last one I have here for us to talk about briefly is if you are feeling the Sunday scaries or coming back from vacation, this is a great framework to come back to check in on, okay, if I'm dreading Monday or if I'm just like, "Oh, I do not want vacation to end, which of your values might be the source of that?" So maybe it's, I had so much flexibility over the weekend and I don't have flexibility during the work week. And that's one of the reasons why I'm feeling this way. Or maybe it's, "Oh, I have to see that person that I really don't feel a mutual respecting relationship with. And I don't, collaboration, that need that I have for collaboration and connection isn't met when I step foot into the office or on Slack or into whatever virtual space you might be in." So these are some ways that you can use what you've crafted today. And I hope you each identified something in your groups that you can do later today or tomorrow to help take some action around honoring your needs. And so to wrap us up, I'd love to have you each add to the chat one thing that's most standing out to you from our dialogue today. Could be a need you identified that you didn't realize you had. It could be an orientation to your work life, seeing things in a new way. You could throw in the chat what your one biggest takeaway is, also to help other people remember what we've gone through. Yeah, Mackenzie, we're not alone. Value-driven decisions. We can build community around. I love that. Even just starting with the 30 people who are here today, you all showed up with intention and willingness to look in the mirror and give yourselves permission to say, what is it that I want? And I'm allowed. Yeah, Julie, good to know I'm not the only one. Non-negotiables, interview questions from Tanya. Reframing our language to what we don't want, from what we don't want to what we do want. Yeah, beautiful. Any other key takeaways? We get ready to wrap up today. Okay. This has been such a joy and honor to be with you all in this way. Most people in my life know that this is a topic that I could talk at length about. And so getting to walk you through this framework so that you walk away with something you can tangibly use is it's one of my non-negotiables that's around doing work that impacts others and helping us all build relationships with work that work for us. So really grateful for each of you showing up for yourselves and for each other in this space. And I know that by sometime next week, Michelle and the team at Northeastern will be sharing the recording that we have from today. And that should also include a link to these slides. So if you want to, of course, look at the recording, but go through the content again on your own or share it with a friend. This work doesn't have to stop here and really can be a continuous process to keep revisiting what is most important to you and what do you want to do about it. So I'll hang around for a few more minutes if anyone has questions. Happy to hear from anyone, but give you 3 minutes back in your day to transition to whatever is next. And I'll pass it to Michelle if there's anything else for us to wrap up with.
Nalani, thank you for creating this fabulous space. You made it easy. You made it simple with these focused questions and categories. And I love the music too, but it seems simple, but you've kind of brought us to things that really matter. And in the career coaching that I do, I know these values and non-negotiables really make a difference. I want to highlight, if you want more of Nalani, you can come to another program on Monday at noon. She, along with 2 other speakers, are going to talk about cultivating balance and combating burnout and imposter syndrome for entrepreneurs, Monday 12 to 1 Eastern Time. You do not have to be an entrepreneur to attend and get something out of this program, and it's listed on the Alumni Relations page under the events section for Monday, and I'll probably send it in a follow-up with the additional links and survey and all that.
Awesome. Thank you, Michelle.
But thank you, Nalani, for sharing your wisdom to explore it. And thank you all for your participation and for coming today. Maybe we'll see you Monday or at future alumni career programs. Thank you.